my live Q&A session that I do every weekday at 2 p.m. to help those of you who are going through difficult breakups right now and need some extra support, advice, help, anything that I can do to give you a bit of a boost. So I have had lots of questions in over the weekend, so I'm going to be going through some of these. But also, please do jump in with questions, post your questions on the DM. If you're on Instagram, hi. If you're joining me on YouTube, hi. But please do post your questions up, because this is your chance to get your questions answered live with me. So I'm offering free support at 2 p.m. today and every weekday to help those of you struggling with any kind of breakup. So whether that's heartbreak, whether that's a rebound relationship that actually we're going to talk about, someone's written in today about whether you've been married for a long time and it's broken down and you're struggling to get on. Maybe it was your first love, maybe going through a really difficult divorce. All these things are extremely difficult at the best of times, okay, at the best of times. And obviously right now we're going through really tough times at the moment. So with COVID-19, it's obviously putting a lot more stress and pressure on us. So our Achilles heel is going to be the breakup, right? So your Achilles heel, so your weak point in your emotional armor is going to be your breakup. This is where you're used to falling apart. This is where you're used to feeling sad. This is where your brain is used to going. So when you put more pressure on it, you're just going to see more of the same, but it's going to get to almost like boiling point, which is where and why we're going to see cracks arising, okay? Another scenario might be that you're living with a partner that you're not very happy with right now, and it's putting pressure on a relationship that maybe was good to start with and has been for many years, but now is struggling. So whatever your situation, do pop down below so I know who's on with me live, so I can give you as much benefit as possible. And also, you know, if you've got any questions, then just pop them up. However daft they may seem to you, or if you think maybe you've covered it before, do drop it in, because lots of people will benefit from your questions as well. So one of the questions that I've got at the moment that came through at the weekend is about breaking up with somebody after, so this lady was with somebody for a long time, married, got divorced, and then started a new relationship. So that's great. However, that relationship recently ended, and it ended quite close to the isolation starting. And what she's finding is that she's going through a really tough time trying to cope with the breakup of the second relationship. And she's a little bit not sure about why she's getting these intense emotions, because while she liked the guy, he wasn't the love of her life. You know, her husband was the love of her life so far. Okay, so far, not always, but so far, not forever, because we can't possibly say that. But where she is right now, this guy was just a bit of fun for her, but she's really stressing out about it. She's finding it very difficult to cope. Now, a lot of the reasons why we're finding, number one, any breakup harder right now, and I had so many calls over the weekend, so many calls from regular clients asking for emergency help, and I do run an emergency phone line for my clients. So I was busy over Easter weekend because a lot of people were finding it super hard. You know, Easter is traditionally a family time, isn't it? So it's always the same around Christmas or birthdays or Easter, that when you're used to spending time with family, especially if you've been in a routine with someone for a long time, so maybe you've been married for a long time or you've been together for a long time, when you're suddenly not with that person, those family traditional days, times, dates in our calendar actually become really, really hard to cope with, because what it does is it shines a spotlight on being alone. Okay, so imagine that you've almost got this spotlight shining because it's Easter weekend, and then on top of that you're also alone because of isolation and lockdown. So I know a lot of my clients all over the world are going through this, not just here in the UK where I am. So it's something that everyone is struggling with at the moment. So to be on your own, even when and on top of that going through a breakup, it's really hard. So please don't beat yourselves up for feeling sad or upset. Okay, please don't, because it is totally normal. Now, this lady is going through a breakup with a relationship that she didn't feel that she cared that much about him. Now, she didn't mean it in a mean way. It's just it was a bit of fun for her, you know, and for him, but he called time on it and she wasn't expecting that. So actually what it's done is it's taken her out of control, put him in control, and she feels a little bit, oh, I wasn't expecting it. It would have been nice to have that connection. Now remember, with isolation, what we're not getting is our number one human need, love and connection. Now love and connection is really important because it is our number one driving human need, okay, above everything else. That's what we want. So if we lose it from somebody, we need to get that back somewhere else because it's important. And this is for everybody. So what's happened is when we go into isolation, we're craving that connection. And this covers some of the questions I've got already today. We crave that connection with other people. And so we go back to what we're familiar with and where we're used to getting that from, whether that's a healthy source or not. Sometimes it's a very toxic source. So hang on, I'm just looking at some of the questions coming through, and I will come back and answer them, Robin, for you. So this lady is now going through a breakup with this second guy, who's a kind of a rebound guy, really, is how she describes him in her email. Why? Why is she so upset? Well, one, because he took control away from her, like it wasn't on her time scale. If it had been, you know what it's like when you're going through and you're going through a breakup and it's on your time scale and you're like, actually, I'm out of it now. That's okay. And she wasn't over the moon happy, but to be rejected in that way is how she's taking it, a rejection. She's taking that a lot more personally. So if you get to that point, you go, you know what, I'm going to decide to move away. It puts you back in an empowered state, whereas it's come from the other side. So that obviously makes her feel a little bit weaker and a little bit more upset. So that's one reason. The second reason is because she never really grieved the end of her marriage. So quite often when we go through a breakup from a rebound person, it hits us doubly hard. Anyone here gone through that? Because I know that I did. Sometimes you meet someone else, you move on. Oh, I'm going to be happy now. I've met someone. I'm not going to be on my own. It's my chance to be happy, be loved, and have all those feelings. So we don't properly grieve the end of what was a really, your marriage or your long-term relationship. And that's where the interesting thing comes in, because we think the tsunami of emotions, these negative emotions that we're going through over the rebound, is about that person. Now, some of it is, of course, because that was your ticket to being happy in the future. So you think at the time. Now, there's lots of tickets to being happy in the future, and we create our own luck, right? And we create our own opportunities. So I don't want you to worry about that. It's not like that's gone and you're not going to get it back. You are. And there's lots of things you can do to make that happen. But we're grieving the loss of that particular opportunity to be happy in love in the future. So that's the second reason, okay? And the third reason is because we haven't properly grieved our marriage because we were so keen to distract ourselves and jump into something else. So even if you've had a year in between, you can still suppress those negative emotions, even more than that. I mean, I have clients who are 15 years on from a divorce and still haven't moved on. So it's really important to distinguish these facts, okay? So that's why quite often we react very strongly to a subsequent relationship breakup rather than the marriage breakup, because we haven't maybe felt strong enough to deal with it, and our body will protect us from dealing with something until we're super ready to deal with it, which is another conversation I had with some clients over the weekend, was that, sometimes it feels like you're going backwards in recovery. But actually, the recovery process is 2 steps forward and 1 step back, sometimes 5, and then 5 steps forward. And then, that's how it works. You slip up and down that loss cycle curve. That's totally normal. And that's how it works. Because what happens is you're not very strong to start with. So your body can't grieve that hard. So you kind of go into denial, into shock. Your body suppresses a lot of those negative emotions and feelings to allow you to get used to being on your own, to get used to the fact that they're not with you anymore, to get used to the fact that they've walked away, and to give you time to adjust so that you can start to build your resilience up a bit. The stronger you begin to become, the stronger you are, then your body goes, okay, so he's dealing with this a bit better now. So what I can do is I can release some more of that grief, because it is grief. Like you really are grieving the end of your relationship, somebody that meant so much to you. That's why breakups are known as the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one. The death of a loved one, you get the funeral and everyone comes out and there's a lot of support. Whereas with the relationship, you kind of have to do that grieving behind closed doors on your own, unless you've got a super good support system around you, which is one of my key points. You do need a breakup support team around you. Now, these are people that can take away the stress for you. Okay, so what do I mean by that? These are not just all your friends and family, because some of your friends and family, however well-meaning they are, can pour fuel on the flames. You know, they can make you do things. They can come say, yes, she was a horrible person, we never liked her, or yes, fight hard for this, or yes, you must go and do this. And sometimes some of the actions that they are recommending, or some of the way they talk about your ex, isn't actually helping you long term to heal. Sometimes it keeps you stuck, keeps you, even regresses you. The reason is that, however, they might be extremely well-meaning, but they're emotionally involved in your breakup. And if your friends and family, your breakup support team, are emotionally involved in your breakup to the point that their advice may not be constructive in the long term for you, that's something that we need to really look at. Okay, so your breakup support team needs to be 1 or 2 members of your friends and family who are people that are slightly distant, slightly removed from the emotion. Okay, slightly removed from the emotional intensity of that. So they're not angry, they don't want to hit out at your ex, they don't want to get revenge, they don't want to see them pay. You know, these have got to be people who can give you constructive advice. I'm not saying that you don't speak to your other friends and family, because that's important, but I just want you, for your breakup support team, to be super careful who you select for this team. Okay, it's only 1 or 2 friends or family member. Okay, second to that, you need someone who can dial down any of the anxiety over the things that are whirring around in your head. So some of you are going to have, for example, worries about money. Some of you are going to have legal problems. So you need to find an expert in both of those fields, either financial and or legal, to give you advice. Okay, now why do I say that? Because what it will do is, if you have someone on your phone you can speed dial, if you know things get too overwhelming, to get the answers to these questions in your head, that will make a massive difference to you, because you're not carrying it in your head anymore. You know that, I'm not sure how I'm going to survive on this budget. Okay, so you can speed dial your financial advisor and they will be able to answer those questions. If you have people like that on your phone, on your speed dial, in your breakup support team, can you see how that dials down the anxiety for you? So you're not on your own. So any of those questions in your head that are causing you anxiety, or you're going round and round in circles over, you need a specific expert on your team to help you. So that would include a coach, could be me, could be a therapist, could be anyone that you know in your team that would add some value to help you dial down or just take control back. You know, I'm a big believer, and the reason I do my coaching is because I move you forward. There's no point sitting there talking about how good it was, reflecting on the past, what happened in your childhood. That can play a really important part, but it's not forever. It's not going to move you forward. So make sure, on top of anything like that you have someone who can drive you forward. Okay, sometimes you need to deal with some of the past stuff to be able to move forward. That's okay, but make sure that you're not staying stuck connecting, which is why some of these groups on toxic exes and things like that keep you stuck. And what I want you to do is get clarity on why they were toxic for you, learn from your mistakes by looking back and analysing what you did wrong, but then take that information and use it to empower you to do things differently. Look at the strategies that you use that are helping you and do more of them, and look at the strategies that maybe you picked up from your parents, maybe you picked up from people around you, that this is how relationships should be, or this is the best way to resolve conflict. You know, you may have learned, for example, that if someone shouts at you, you give in and you just retreat, because that's what you used to as you grew up. You may have learned that a certain dynamic between mum and dad is normal in a household, and so you're replicating that. But actually, is it? And is it the wrong? Is it the way you want to be moving forward? So all these things are really interesting. Okay, they're little things that you can learn from the past to move you forward, but don't let them keep you stuck. Okay, can you see how looking back and learning is really important to move you forward? Okay, let's have a look at some of these questions that are coming in here. So we've got one here. Do you have any advice about online dating? I find the idea of it horrific after being with my ex for 26 years, but would like the positivity of thinking I could have a loving relationship in the future. Yes, online dating. So who else out there is online dating? I'm a big fan of online dating, to be honest. Now, the interesting thing about online dating is that it's not about finding Mr. Right or Miss Right. Okay, please take that idea and trash that. Okay, that's not what it's about. It is about building your confidence back up after a breakup. It is about learning to communicate with other people. It is a very different rule set to what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. And you've got to do it with your eyes wide open, okay? Because there's a lot of people who are not what they say they are out there. So the thing is, it's okay to meet Mr. Right Now or Miss Right Now. It's not all about putting pressure on someone to show you some affection so you can do what I call limpet mode, sucker yourself to them and say, oh, great, I'm never going to be on my own again. And that's not the aim of the game. You've got to treat it as a bit of fun, okay? And if you treat it as a bit of fun, you're going to increase your chances of finding someone that you're more compatible with. Now, if you're going to go online dating, then pick a website that suits your personality, okay? Find something that, a website that reflects maybe an interest of yours. You know, if you're a Guardian reader or you're a Telegraph reader, look up the dating apps for them. You know, because you meet like-minded people on these apps, okay? So you want to try and get someone who's got similar values, similar interests, because obviously that's going to make it easier. The most important thing is that you have your safety net underneath you, your safety net of what you've learned from your past that doesn't work for you moving forward, okay? Also, what we're very good at is what we want. So I guarantee that all of you, right, will know what you want from a relationship. You might be tall, dark, handsome, it might be short, blonde, blue eyes. You'll know instantly what you're attracted to, okay? So that's something that you need to look for, okay? So instantly you're going to know, but it's what do you need? Now, what do you need is going to be different from what everybody else needs on this call, okay? What do I mean by what do you need? Well, think about your past relationships and why they failed. Now, was it lack of communication? Was it someone that didn't do a certain thing that you need them to do? Maybe I had a client, and I know there's some questions in here, and I am giving advice that's relevant to all these questions as we go, by the way. So there's some questions in here that talk about not feeling loved by their last partner. Okay, so how do you feel love? How do you feel love? This is really important that you figure these things out before you get stuck into dating apps. I mean, there's any others you recommend? Yeah, there's Happen's quite good because you have to walk past someone. So there's people in your local area or wherever you are. So for example, if you live in the countryside and you don't want to meet someone from there, turn it on when you go into London, if that's what you do. And then you'll meet people in that area. Bumble is quite good. There are lots of different apps out there that are quite fun. There's Hinge as well. So have a look around. I mean, I don't recommend any particular one because it doesn't really matter. I mean, Tinder, people say it's bad. I've got friends who've got married from Tinder. So, you've got to, it's about you. Okay, it's not about necessarily the app. It's about what you're going to put in. It's what you're going to get out. Be careful. Make sure the photographs that you put on there portray the image you want. Don't put you sprawled on a bed because then you're going to get people looking for hookups. Don't put too much personal information out there. And remember that, you don't know who's going to see it. So make sure you're comfortable with the images that you're putting out there. Put a smiley one out, put some fun ones out, and show different sides of your personality. And make sure you look like the pictures. That's really important because otherwise you're just deceiving someone. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to have any chance of going anywhere if you start off like that. But be aware that other people are misleading by their pictures and things like that they put on, and look for signs. If you're a woman and you're looking for a guy, then just be careful that if you're looking at pictures there and you want someone who's going to be committed, if they're lying half naked on a bed, that's the signal they're giving out. It's probably not going to be somebody that's looking for much more than a hookup. So try and read between the lines, and also don't be too trusting of people, please, because you don't know until you meet them. Now, what I would suggest is that you do the ideal partner exercises in both of my books before you start dating, because that will help you work out what you need as well as what you want. So you've got a good, clear picture of what you're going for, but also help you work out your 5 must-not-haves. And we talked a little bit about this on Friday. 5 must-not-haves are things that are deal breakers, things that when you start to see them come up, so someone lies, if someone's misleading, if someone doesn't come back to you, if they're not reliable, all these things you need to figure out before you start dating, because dating isn't a way to rescue yourself. It's not a way to find someone to fill the gaps that you don't have to help you cope better. No. You've got to fix those gaps in you first and not look for someone else to save you. Okay, so that's really important. So if someone lies, or if you can't have a relationship with someone that smokes, or whatever it is for you that's an absolute deal breaker, if the person you're meeting does this, you're out. Then that's what you need to think about when you're dating, because you can't just go in and just look for love. Anyone that shows you a sign of affection and has a pulse, because that's just not going to be healthy for you, and you're going to end up getting your heart broken, which is going to make you less confident to date. So what we want to do is work out first what you want and what you need. Those are important. Then you get your 5 must not haves. Again, that's in both my books. And again, you get the split on Kindle for only £1. I think your ideal partner is like chapter 25, no, 26, day 26, page 135 is design your ideal partner. It's a really effective exercise just to get you focusing on what you want, okay? And then put your safety net underneath you so that you can protect yourself when you're dating. What I mean by protect yourself is minimize the chances of you getting heartbroken, because you're not making the same mistakes over and over again. You're learning and you're putting that into helping you find somebody that is compatible with you. But obviously take off those rose tinted glasses, listen to what people are saying, because people will tell you who they are. Don't filter that out as, oh, you know, like I think I mentioned the other day, one of my clients said that on a first date, a guy told her that his mum thought he was incredibly selfish. And she sort of laughed about it, but actually a couple of months on, she looked back and said, he is really selfish. He told her that, date 1, but she didn't want to see that. So she was just letting all that go by because she was transfixed by what she wanted him to be, not who he actually was. So look for the signs, listen for those signs, and be present when they come up so you can protect yourself from that. It's really, really super important. Okay, good. This is such good advice. Great. Okay, Matt Fletch has sent a request to be in your live video. Sometimes people click on this, and then when I actually get them on, they freak out because they're just sitting in their garden. They don't want to be on. But if you've got any other questions, guys, drop them down, because as I'm going through, I'm going to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Ah, hello. I don't think she wants to be on. Shall I take her off? Okay. I think she pressed by mistake, but that's okay. So okay, so right, okay, so let's crack on with some of these other ones. Some people are asking me how can they keep going, because it's really tough going through isolation on their own, and it's just making the intensity of their breakup even worse. Yeah, and it will do that because breakups actually mirror isolation, don't they? If you think about it. So going through isolation, you're removed from friends and you're removed from the people that you want to be around. So it's the same with your breakup. You can't see your partner anymore. You're having to adjust to doing things on your own, same as a breakup. Also, you're having to become more self-reliant. So you're having to manage things, you're having to juggle things. If you've got kids, you're definitely the chauffeur, not the chauffeur anymore, but the chef, the entertainer, the teacher, every single person. So all these things are, you know, a lot to take on. So actually going through the breakup actually mirrors a lot of what's going on in isolation. So that's why it feels even harder right now to go through a breakup. But interestingly, and some people are taking comfort in the fact that other people are being forced to be on their own right now, and they're not going through a breakup, but they're finding it tough. So you're not alone. And in fact, at the moment, everybody is dealing with being on their own. Everybody's being forced to be away from people that they care about, whether it's parents, friends, children. It can be, you know, extremely, extremely difficult for everybody, not just people going through a breakup. Robin said, not alcohol as in to cope with a breakup. No, look, I'm all for a glass of wine in the evening, but if you are finding that you are drinking more than normal, I have a lady here who's written in who's crying a lot of the time, and alcohol is something that she's gone to help her cope better with the breakup. Now, alcohol will take an edge off for sure some of that anxiety, and for some people it will help you sleep. But if you are drinking a lot more than you normally would, or an unhealthy amount, then please be consciously aware that this is not a sustainable pattern for you. And actually, alcohol will make you feel a lot worse, as we all know, the next day. So what can you do instead? Well, we've got to try and replace those behaviors with something else. So try and find something else that you can do, maybe a different drink for you that you can have, that you enjoy, but you know, maybe that isn't that. Find other ways to release stress. If you can get outside and go for a brisk walk, that will help. You know, that will help release some of the pressure. So it's not all on the crutches that we're putting in. Exercise instead of gym. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of exercise. I mean, I exercise normally anyway, 4 or 5 times a week. I'm finding it hard to exercise in my home because that's not my ideal place to exercise, but I've turned that around. Actually, I was doing some weights. I don't have weights, so I was using 2 wine bottles. So that's a great use for your wine bottles, just to use as hand weights. I was following Davina's 30-day workout burnout plan, or fat plan. It was really good, but you need hand weights. So I walked around the kitchen, I like 2 bottles of wine, that'll do. So I was doing my arm muscles with that, and it's about the right weight, so perfect. So there's another great way of using your wine to do something more constructive with. But I know it's not funny, but we've got to try and find ways to lighten our mood, right? We've got to try and find ways to get through this. You know, I think standing together and knowing you're not alone, you know, I think is really, really important. Yeah, I think actually trying to learn something about yourself is also really key, because you want to come to the end of this not in a mess because you've drunk yourself silly and you've eaten too much, you know, and you've let yourself go. You want to come back to the end of this thinking, you know what, I've learned something about me. I've done some exercise. I'm in a good place and I'm ready to move forward, because coming out of lockdown could be a way off, you know, and it's a slippery slope. And I was watching some of the celebrities had post their tummies getting bigger. So I don't know, it was Paddy McGuinness, I think, they posted that up. You know, I mean, I guess it's kind of funny and it makes some people feel good because they're in the same situation. But for me, I don't think that's helping, because I think what we need is motivation to step up, not to to sit down. It's okay, don't beat yourself up if you had extra Easter eggs, for God's sake, it's Easter. Yeah, we all eat more chocolate over Easter weekend, absolutely. But try to keep yourself on the path of staying fit and healthy, because fit and healthy helps your mental state. You know, like alcohol doesn't help your mental state, it's a negative effect on that. Exercise will give you a boost, even if it's a short boost and makes you feel good about yourself for that moment. It's something that you can hold on to, and it is a positive way to move forward and get your body into shape, so when we come out of this you're feeling fitter and stronger to deal with it. You know, use this as a way forward, not as a way backwards. Okay, so I think otherwise when we come to the end of it, it's going to be super hard to move forward if you're coming from a breakup and you've put on weight and you've developed more negative habits. So look, all for a bit of balance, a glass of wine in the evening, but try and find other things that you can do. Like Karen says, there, exercises or gym is something else, or connect with your friends. You know, maybe arrange to connect with your friends on FaceTime in the evening, or put on a box set that really distracts you, or find that, you know, sparkling water or something you can drink instead, something that, you know, you find or you can replace. Because taking away something is not effective unless you replace it with something else. So you've got to do that. So yeah, I think, let me see if there's any other questions here. And I appreciate you all joining me on Easter Monday. I wanted to come on even though it's bank holiday, because I know a lot of you are sat at home and struggling. And let me just check that I've covered all these things. Yeah. I think that a lot of people are finding it hard right now, whether they're going through a breakup or not. So I just wanted to say, you've got to be a little bit brave right now. We have to dig deep. We have to be a little bit brave. We have to keep going. And we have to accept there's going to be ups and downs, and that's okay. And we're going to maybe have some things that happen that maybe we get a bit upset, maybe we get a bit tearful, maybe you do drink a bottle of wine, maybe you do eat a load of Easter eggs, but that's okay. It doesn't mean it's all over. It means, okay, let's just get some balance and let's go the other way for a little while and try and balance it out. Maybe go for a nice walk or go for a run. Any advice for moving on when we're still living together? Yeah, well, I had a call about this over the weekend, actually. One of the things that I would totally suggest is that during this time, that's not enough information for me to really dive into your specific situation there, because if you're amicable is one thing, if you're not amicable, it's another. If it's a toxic relationship, it's different advice. But what I would say is that use this time to get your ducks in a line. So it's maybe not the time for you powering through a divorce and getting the lawyers involved at this stage, but it is a time for you to work out finances. You know, you're going to be asked by the lawyers to separate your finances. You're going to have to know about your finances. So you're going to have to work out what your assets are, what your liabilities, and come together with that. Also, start planning what life is going to look like. So, you know, where are you going to live? What's that going to look like? What are you going to do more of? Who are you going to spend more time with? Who are you going to spend less time with? Think it through and try and get a plan. And you don't necessarily need to tell your partner you're doing this if you're still living together right now, but it is something that will feed your brain and get you excited about the future. So go on Rightmove, have a look at different areas, go on a virtual tour of homes, because that's what they're doing now. You can't go and visit, but you can go on virtual tours. So you can go and check out what the future is like, and try and throw as much paint on that blank canvas for the future. So you know you designed it inside and out like a 3D moving image, because this is a really good time to get your ducks in the line now. So finding out all about finances, getting the paperwork together. It's a bit of a nightmare, but you've got time now to do it. Maybe if you don't know what you're doing, get some legal advice for 20 minutes on the phone or an hour. It's worth investing in that to then be able to know what you need to do to move forward. So those sort of things, I would say, that's how moving on when you're still living together would be good. As well as making sure you've got quality time alone apart from them. You know, find a little area in the house, maybe your room, you can close the door and have some quiet time, like a sanctuary for you, is really, really important. As well as developing your own interests and thinking about the future. You know, what are you going to be doing for work? What are you going to be doing for hobbies? What are you going to do at the weekends? What meals are you going to cook in the evening? You're trying to develop new skill sets. Don't let this be limbo. Let it be preparation time. You know, really getting to grips with things, sorting out your clothes. So if you're going to have to move home, start going through those and detoxing your wardrobe so that you can genuinely feel like you're moving forward and you're constructively into the future. You know, you wouldn't want to necessarily take all those clothes with you for then anything like me, clearing out drawers that are going to need to be cleared out. Those sort of things are important. So lots of things you can do if you're still living together, if you're going to separate after this, that will help you do that and keep that momentum so that you know there's a way out, and keeping that light at the end of the tunnel is really important. So I hope you found this useful, guys. I am on every day at 2 p.m. for half an hour to help you with your questions on weekdays. Please, please, please. Yes, wardrobe detox is great, Gail says. Please drop me your questions. DM me. You can email me, sarah@sarahdavidson.com. I'm here to support you during lockdown, to help you as much as I possibly can. So do take advantage of it. Ask me any questions, and I will cover them in my next weekday session. So I hope to see you soon. Mwah. Big hugs. Stay safe.